Hi everyone, hope everyone is doing well. We're back again with the 30 Men for 30 Days, where we're highlighting different men and their health experiences. We've had some amazing guests so far who've really spoken up, about men's health, not just mental health, but also physical health. We've had real stories about men. And today we are joined by none other than Gordon. I don't like to introduce people because I feel like people always do the best when they introduce themselves. So, Gordon, I'm going to hand it over to you and ask you, tell people, what is your name? What do you do? And how do you take care of your health?
Okay, so my name's Gordon D. Melville. I'm the Chief Catalyst Strategist Guide and founder at CEO, I guess, as well, of Jewel International, which is an acronym. Jewel is my family, my wife and my business together. And then, so that's Jandon, Jewel, Jewil, Jandon Empowerment with Intention Life Coaching. And we do high level, it's a high performance coaching practice. And we do group coaching, one-on-one coaching, keynote speaking. And I'm an international best-selling author and a dad of 3 teenage boys and been married for 30 years. We live in Canada. And in terms of health, what did you ask? Sorry, you asked.
How do you take care of your health?
How can I take care of my health? Well, you know what? Self-care, the term was coined a long time ago, but being able to do extreme amounts of self-care, because I didn't for a long time. So more than 30 years, I was the Energizer Bunny, 300 miles an hour with my hair on fire and go, 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 go. I would teach self-care, but I wouldn't do any self-care, which I think is a common theme for lots of guys, especially, unless we cough up a lung, we're not going anywhere near a doctor. And even then we might try and swallow it back down and continue to figure things out. But so I just ignored my body. And then eventually in late 2015, it said, hey, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And so my body sort of shut off and I was bedridden for a better part of 2 years. And in the middle of all that, there was, when you take an Energizer Bunny and squeeze them into a space where they can't move, it gets dark in a hurry. So there was a suicide attempt in the middle of all that, which I look back at now and go, that was gifted, because I needed the perspective about mental awareness, mental health, that I didn't have, depression, suicide, that kind of thing, that I needed to be able to fulfill my purpose, which is to have a meaningful connection with more than 10 million men globally in the next 24 months, with a message of hope that says there are positive ways to deal with the emotions we all feel every day, but we're told and taught not to let anybody see. Don't show your emotions, hold it inside. Don't look weak, don't cry. And so we didn't do anything with them. We pushed them all inside, or we put them in a box, put them on a shelf and said, you know what, they're just not here. The problem is we still had residual pain of that. So now we started to numb the pain. So now we drink, or we do drugs, or we gamble, or what. Now I've got a vice on top of the problem because it didn't take the problem away. So my mission is to give people, specifically entrepreneurial men, because that's where my heart is, but men in general, and then everybody around that even, tools and strategies to be able to deal with regular stress and anxiety and depression, things that we feel every day, but we don't know what to do with. So having the tool already in your toolbox when you need it is a key to being able to get past whatever it is. If we get into a situation, we don't know what to do with it. If the toolbox isn't already in our, if the tool isn't already in our toolbox, it's difficult to source that tool, to be able to use that tool, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. And I know you mentioned, about your health, and you mentioned that you were bedridden. Would you mind telling us what the health issue was at the time that you were having?
Well, and I'm still having, so some of it's still there. So I was diagnosed at the time with type 2 diabetes. I was now and have been for 5-7 years insulin using, as well as medication and whatnot, as well as diet and exercise as much as I can and whatnot, have all been things that I've been trying to use to make that work. So that was the one thing. I've got Crohn's, I've got ulcerative colitis. There's a bunch of different things. And then in the last just over 3 years, 3.5 years, I guess, I've had undiagnosed migraine level pain that they can't figure out why. I go to sleep with it, I wake up with it. It's not migraine, but it stops me from being me at a level that I'm used to. So I sleep 16 hours a day, give or take, between 14 and 18 somewhere, to try and get away from the pain. Is the only thing that I found that actually will put a dent in it, and it doesn't take it away. It just makes me unaware that it's happening. So that's an ongoing thing. But again, to go back sort of full circle to your original question, that means extreme self-care. So it means lots of sleep, lots of, whether it's medication, whether it's vitamins, whether it's all the different bits and pieces. There's meditation in there, there's prayer in there, there's journaling and reading and all these different things that are there to try and make sure. If that means naps in the middle of the afternoon, then I take a nap in the afternoon, whatever it takes, right? To be able to do it. And I'm kind of a walking, talking billboard for what happens when you don't do any self-care for 3 decades. My people around me go, "Oh, your body's letting you down." And I'm like, "No, I let my body down. I didn't pay attention to it for a long time. And so now I'm reaping the reward of that." And you do as best as you can with what you got and let the chips fall where they may. But, my part of my story and part of my soapbox on my radio show, I've got a live radio show, podcast, and TV show that goes out to more than 450 platforms globally and multiple times a week, under a title of The Long Bearded Guy. And I'm not sure where that comes from exactly, but just pick that out of the air, it's just whatever. That works. Kind of arbitrary, but okay. But that's part of my soapbox, is talking about self-care, is talking about extreme self-care. It's talking about, as well as tools and strategies for mental awareness. And I call it that because I think mental health, mental illness is under the mental awareness umbrella. There's lots of things that go on in our mind that have nothing to do with our health or our illness challenges that are still things that are important to think about and to pay attention to. So I use an umbrella of mental awareness. And I think we're all on a mental awareness spectrum. So when we think of that, when we think of mental health, mental illness, we think heavy stuff, PTSD and schizophrenia and deep depression and suicide and all these heavy duty things. And that's there, but it doesn't have to be that end. Maybe it's on the other end of the spectrum, a little bit of stress and anxiety because of work or home or finances or whatever. The challenge is if we don't deal with that in a positive way and make it go away, we are going to end up on the other end of that spectrum. And that's what's been happening. There you got lots of people with depression and lots of people doing suicide. I heard a statistic this week, every 40 seconds, somebody gives their soul back to Papa on the planet. Every 40 seconds, somebody. So in the half hour we're together, there's several dozen people are going to leave the planet of their own accord. In the US, statistically, I think they say 21 or I can't remember, it was 21 or 22 military vets do the same thing every day. Wow. It's rampant, and it's because we don't have the tools and because we hold it exclusive instead of inclusive. And what I mean by that is people look at people with mental awareness challenges and go, they're messed up, but I'm okay. Right? And it's exclusive, right? They're messed up. I don't deal with that stuff. I have my own crap I got to deal with, but I don't deal with that. So I'm better than them somehow. We judge them that they're not as good as me because they have to deal with that. And as long as we hold that, it's the whole word stigma. I lose my mind when I hear people go, oh, we got to stop the stigma. I'm like, no, stop using that word. It's a sanitized, civilized word that people use so they don't actually have to admit what they're doing. And people go, okay, so what are they doing? Well, they're being judgmental pricks. That's what they're saying is I'm better than them because I don't have to deal with that, right? It's not stigma, it's just judgment. Anywhere you see the word stigma, you can lift it out, put the word judgment in. It's way more accurate, way more honest. And so I say to people all the time, stop judging people. Stop saying, hey, you know what? I'm better than them, right? Stop looking at them that way. And so as long as we hold exclusive, people will choose suicide because they don't want the judgment. They don't want the embarrassment and shame that comes with saying, hey, I'm struggling with some stuff in my mind. I need help. We don't do that with people with a broken arm or a broken leg. We don't judge them. Now we find out they were doing, skateboarding on someplace they shouldn't have been, or, we're doing silly, crazy things. Well, all right, we may judge them a little bit, what the hell are you doing to yourself? But there's no real serious judgment, but there is with mental for some reason. As soon as it becomes a mental thing, we judge. And so, stopping that from happening is part of my soapbox. It's part of my mission, and to give it, the mission is to give those 10 million men ways, and anybody that'll listen, because I don't think men have the market cornered on not doing self-care. Lots of women don't do self-care either. So, or we look at it in terms of other people's opinion, right? Somebody else's opinion. Well, everybody around me is saying, go, go, go. I've got to be driven. I got to go, go, go. That's great. In church, growing up, we were taught looking after yourself first was selfish, right? And now I look at it and go, wait. Not looking after myself first is selfish, right? Because if the whole reason I worked that hard for 3 decades plus was to look after my wife and my family. But as soon as I was bedridden, all of a sudden I'm no good to all the people that I was trying to do that for, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, now I'm useless to them. I think they did a disservice. There should have been a caveat when they were teaching that. And a lot of that came from religion. A lot of that came from church. And I'm a spiritual guy, seriously, deeply spiritual guy, but I'm not a fan of religion. Man's finite brain trying to understand an infinite Papa, and we just can't. We just don't understand. And so we put him in a box and go, hey, this is Papa, right? This is God. And so however you identify that, but the point is, it's not instead of. It's not look after yourself first instead of your responsibilities to your family or your clients or your jobs, or right? It's as well as. So that means if you get up at 7 o'clock and you need to do more self-care because you have to find the time and there just isn't in your day, great, you're getting up at 6 o'clock or you're getting up at 5:30, whatever. You're building that time in ahead of time. That's you time to do the things that you need to do to look after you, to be able to show up the way you want to and the way you should be for your family and your clients and all the different bits and pieces. And the challenge is most people don't want to do that, right? Lots of people they're eager to learn. They're eager to find out. They read books, sometimes not that many, but sometimes they'll read books, but they'll go to seminars and they'll listen to people talk. They'll watch videos on webinars and whatnot, but they're not eager to change. They're not, right? They're not eager to be coached. And so, they have all this information because knowledge isn't power. Everybody's, oh, knowledge is power. That's not true. Applied knowledge is power. Right? I can know everything about everything, but if I don't use any of it or it doesn't impact me, I might as well not know it because it doesn't mean anything, right? When I use that power, when I use that knowledge, that's ultimate power. So it's good to be eager to learn, but I have to be willing to. I always talk about being willing to sacrifice who I am today to become who I'm supposed to be tomorrow. And lots of people aren't willing to do that because they're stuck on their resume. They're stuck on their, no, this is who I am. I've accomplished this and this and this and this and this, and that's great. What have you done for me lately? Right? What have you, and not for me necessarily, what have you done for yourself? What have you done for the people around you? And that's all in the past. What have you done going forward? I talk a lot about the difference between being and doing. We get stuck doing and doing and doing and doing. We're doing, what are you doing? How are you doing? What's going right? Do. And we forget about who we're being. And we're not human doings, we're human being? So, that's a much deeper conversation for me when we start to go, okay, who are you being? Who are you looking to become? And how can I help you become? Right? What can I do to move you forward into becoming who you need to be? And I do it myself for myself. I look at it and go, well, Papa gave me a mission to have 10 million men, to talk to 10 million men. And I'm like, I'm not in a place to be able to do that yet in terms of having that kind of a reach and that kind of an impact. That means I'm growing and becoming into who I need to be able to have that impact. And so I'm doing exactly the same thing I'm preaching to other people to do, in terms of being willing and comfortable being uncomfortable, in terms of growing, right? Intentionally growing, not just organically letting it happen, actually intentionally moving myself forward and putting myself in situations where I go, you know what? I want to grow and I want to learn. So I'm going to go here, or I'm going to take this course, or I'm going to go to Maryland and hang out with the be the keynote for the CLA, or whatever it is, right? That's all putting myself out there. I learned a whole great deal about myself this past weekend in terms of where I'm at physically, right? Not just mentally, but where I'm at physically. Am I rebounding? Am I getting better? Is there progress? And it was a really good measure of, you know what? No, I'm not as far along as I had hoped maybe I might be. So, but I wouldn't have known that unless I had put myself in the space, right? I can stay in my studio. I can stay right here, and down here I can do, nine Zoom calls in a day. Well, I don't have to move from right here. I got my nice studio and my chair and my
Quite
children
nice.
bringing
I
me.
like the forest.
Yes, I like my forest. It's a backdrop. It's not actually virtual. It's actually there.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
nice. I need to get that.
yeah.
I mean, there's something that you said, and I want to touch upon that, not just I think I've had cases, not just in Africa, but I think around the world where men, they die by suicide in terms of when they're not able to provide for their family or unemployment. And I know you mentioned something around, the people that you had been working hard for all of a sudden didn't need you anymore because you weren't able to do the things that you used to do. How did that make you feel as a man not being able to provide and just feeling powerless in that moment?
That's where the suicide attempt came from. That, like, when I say it got dark, that's what I mean. I felt like a millstone around their neck, right? It wasn't, I still had the responsibilities. They were still counting on me to provide. They were still counting on me to be there for them. And when I first got sick, my oldest just started college this year, but he was 11 years old when that's all started. And so, his brothers were even younger than that. So, my wife was working full time, and that was great. And thank you, Papa, for that, because we wouldn't have survived without that. But at the end of the day, there was lots of shame and guilt around that. There was lots of, but that's what I'm saying. It led to, I'm just a millstone. I'm dragging them down and holding them back. If they didn't have to deal with me and put up with the crap and look after me, they could move ahead with their lives. They could go forward. And so it puts you in a space where you go, well, I spent all my time sleeping or in bed. I couldn't get out of bed. Our ensuite's probably 20 feet from the bed, and I would fall down 2 or 3 times just trying to get to the bathroom. So usually I just slid out of the bed onto the floor and then would crawl from the bed to the bathroom, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't carry myself across. So does it beat up your manhood? For sure it does. Does it kick your ego in the? Yep, it does. And so, I think part of the reason I'm still here is because of my personal development background, and because of, well, Papa saved me in the end, but having that positive space, right? If I didn't have, because I was a lot of things I would try. When I would wake up and go, you know what, I really don't feel like myself, and I really don't want to do anything today, and I can't get up and I can't move, and I would go right to the bottom of my messengers, like my Facebook Messenger list of conversations, or right to the bottom of my text messages, right? And I have probably 150 open conversations in each of those things. And I would scroll right to the bottom, and then I would find the person right at the bottom, and I would click on them and go, hey, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. Big hugs, love you. And then I would copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste like 60 or 80 times in each line, right? In each thread. And what happened was that lifted my vibration. It made me feel better that I was putting that love out there.
Mm.
And the odd thing happened, that about 40-50% of those people would reach back and say, hey, I haven't talked to you in forever. How you doing? What's going on? But well, that made me feel better. And so that raised my vibration. And so what I found out after, after those 2 years anyway, some of those people that I was reaching out to say, hey, because I was trying to raise my vibration, Papa was using that, and lots of them have come back and said, um, you know what? Though it was really weird. I would be having a bad day, and then I would get a text message from you that said, hey, thinking about you. Hope everything's good. Love you. Big hugs. Papa was using what I was using to lift my spirit and my energy to help somebody else and inspire them and show them that they're not by themselves and they're loved and cared about and whatever. I was like, wow, you know what? That's so wild to me that he just sort of works that around. So it's helping all the different bits and pieces, right? So yeah, without Papa and without my positive outlook, and I've been doing personal development for more than 30 years, so you know that at a really high level. I've been reading well, I guess it's 5 to 7 books a month for more than 30 years, and journaling every day in
Five to, did you say 5 to 7 books?
5 to 7, yeah,
You like
a month.
one page at a time, or do you skim through, or do you...
No, 1 page at a time. Yep, 1 page at a time. It's a little over a book, about a book and a half, almost 2 books a week. And then I'm journaling in 5 different journals every day, which that takes a little bit of time, but is something has been very important to me and very, very it's one of the tools I teach in terms of being able to deal with stress and anxiety and depression and emotions, and being able to let stuff out and remember stuff, as well as being legacy for my kids, for my boys, right? These are things that Dad dealt with. These are things that he struggled with, or these are the good things that happened to him, because those 5 journals, one's personal, one's business, one's general, one's gratitude, and one's goals. So I write in all of those different topics every day. So if it's a business thing, I've got my business journal open in front of me here with notes from everything I've talked about with everybody I've talked about in the last, whatever the date was when I started this one. But those things are things that I need to remember, because we want to remember. Some of my buddies give me a hard time. We'll be going into a theater to watch a movie, and I've got my general journal with me, and they're like, what are you doing, you moron? You're going to go and sit in the dark for 2 hours. What do you got to... And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hear something that you never know when inspiration's coming. And so I may hear something in a movie and go, you know what? That's awesome. I want to remember that. And so I write it down, because as much as I think I can remember, I will not remember.
Yep.
Right? So I write it down. I wait till there's a little bit of light from the screen, and I write it down. I don't, anybody that sees me without a journal in my hand, one of my buddies, he's like, Gord, if I show up without a book, without a journal, he's like, I don't recognize you. You don't have a book in your hand.
But you sound like me. Like my journals, I've got a journal for everything, and my husband's always, saying to me like, "What are you doing with all these journals?" And I'd always tell him, "I wish you could understand. Like there's something about journaling, like in everything. It's not just, it's life experiences for me. It's where I draw ideas. It's where my prayers and answered prayers are. It's
Absolutely.
where I look back and, just, I think the one thing that you mentioned, and I experienced that, and that's like gratitude. Whenever I look at and I read through my experiences and I hear other people's experiences, and it reminds me like, my situation is not as bad as I think,
Right.
in those hard times. And I love what you said there. So I just want to ask you, just for someone who's going through something right now, what you went through, and they probably, it's a guy and he's feeling like he's at the end of the road. He's feeling like, there's nothing else that he can do. What advice would you give him that, that helped you during your hard time?
Um, that's a really, really good question, and it's a tough question to answer. And I'll tell you why. Because I had always thought, until I had that perspective, until I was in this situation, I always looked at it and went, you know what, suicide's the most selfish thing they can do. Why don't they just reach out for help? But when I was in that moment, when I was in those moments before, I thought I was doing my family and my friends a favor by not being here anymore, because I was taking away something that I thought was a negative from them. So a lot of times we won't reach out in those moments when we should, but we don't because we think we're doing them a favor. And it's not altruistic because it's absolutely going to hurt those people around us. But we don't see that in the moment. We're not aware of that in those moments. All we can see is, hey, I'm doing them a favor. So if they're in a space where they're already in a space where they're at the end of the rope, forcing themselves to understand that that's not the way out. I strongly believe that if we could interview the people that had people that were successful and people that were not successful, giving their souls back to Papa, if we could interview them after, I would be shocked if we didn't get about 70 to 75% of those people that would have changed their mind part of the way through the process, but because of the process they chose, because of the way they chose to do it, they couldn't change it, right? So if I jump off a bridge that's 100 feet off the water, halfway down I go, you know what, I changed my mind. It doesn't matter. The outcome is going to be the same because I've already started that process in a way that I can't back it up. And so I share that because I think to encourage people, men as well as women, but more men commit suicide than women do. And so as somebody that's already in that space and is already struggling that hard, to reach out to somebody that and somebody that'll listen, somebody that I'm thinking clergy, I'm thinking if you can't get a counselor, I'm thinking sibling, I'm thinking somebody from church, I'm thinking somebody that gives a shit about you. And part of my if it gets to a point where we don't think anybody cares or we don't see a way out, and to illustrate that, if we get tunnel vision when we get into those spaces. And the problem is, if this is the problem, it becomes right here. Right? And that's all we can see. I can't see solution. I can't see the problem is so big. Everything else goes away. This is the only, I have to find a way to pull it out of the way or to distract myself so that I can find solution. And that's why I say stuff needs to be preloaded. That's why my mission is to get to them before they get to that space, to give them the tools they need so that when they get in that space, they may not still be able to do it by themselves, but they'll understand, hey, you know what? I can journal, or I can call somebody, or I can text to somebody that will care and actually reach out and try and help me. Because I think that's what the long and short of it is, if you stay in that space on your own, I was lucky that I wasn't alone. Papa was right there. I always sort of talk that he saved me twice in my life, once on the cross 2,000 years ago, and the second time was in my bathroom. And it's without that, because how do I say that? People's opinions don't matter. We often wait for other people's opinion of who we are and what we're about, and we look for validation from other humans. and they all have their own crap going on. Everybody has their own situations and their own emotion and their own stuff happening. And so Papa's always there. You reach out to him, he's always there. He's right here, always, 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 always. He's inside of us. And so, sometimes we need Papa with skin on, which would be a clergy or a friend or a neighbor or somebody, to reach out to somebody and go, hey, even if it's in a text, I need help. I do a thing with my kids where if they get in a situation where they are either physically not well or they're in a dangerous situation that they hadn't anticipated being in, if as parents, if we get a 911 from them, we know that there's a problem. One of my sons has he's going through this thing where he'll pass out, but he knows it's coming. He has a couple of seconds notice. And so we say to him, when you feel that type of feeling coming, all you have to say is 911, and all of us already know what that means. And he doesn't have to go into detail. He doesn't have to say anything else. We all know, hey, he needs help. Like right now, he needs help. And so being able to type something like that to somebody that cares, I need 911, I need help. It lets somebody else understand and know, hey, there's somebody else there, right? Because as long as we understand that's not the way out, and I look at it as, people have said, well, you struggle with so much and the pain and all this, and I'm like, yep, I do, but I'll guarantee you there's millions of Ukrainians right now that would change positions with me in a heartbeat so they didn't have to worry about being bombed or shot or arbitrarily, whatever. The point is, they'll take my pain, they'll take whatever, because I've got a roof over my head and food in my belly, and I'm safe and protected and looked after and whatever. As much as we think, this is so hard. There's a meme that shows a guy, it's a bunch of different people, but the guy on the far left is in a wheelchair, and he's looking to his left to a guy walking on the sidewalk, and he's like, oh, I wish I could walk. And the guy that's walking on the sidewalk's looking to his left, seeing a guy on a pedal bike going, oh, I wish I had a pedal bike. And the guy on the pedal bike's looking to his left going, oh, to the guy in the car, I wish I had a car. And that guy's going, hey, I wish I had a nicer car. And I always draw a thing on the far end where I start, because that's where it shows, right? No one's happy. Everybody's looking for the next thing.
Yep.
Right. And I always add another picture to the left of the guy in the wheelchair, because you put a graveyard next to the guy in the wheelchair that are looking at the guy in the wheelchair and go, yeah, you know what? I really wish I was still alive. There's always somebody that's not as well off. We were talking about that at the thing Jose had said when he was in, I forget, Jamaica or Barbados, someplace like that. And he said, we had this beautiful dinner, but there were scraps left over. There were stuff that we couldn't eat, or there was stuff on the plate and whatever. And he said, these kids came in and were like, wow, look, we get to eat today. And they were eating the leftover pieces of what they had left on. So their worst stuff was these children's best day. Right. And we don't use that kind of perspective. There's always somebody worse off than we are. Always, 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 always. And as hard as we think we have it, there's somebody worse off than us. And if we're at the end of our rope because we don't know, we need to sort of set it to one side and go, you know what? I have to reach out. This isn't the way out. As hard as it is, there's, my mother-in-law, her and my father-in-law, he's gone now. And they were divorced, but the point is, on her, whatever it was, 73rd or 74th birthday, I gave her a hug and happy birthday, and she goes, yeah, I know. Oh man. I'm like, what? Oh, I'm getting old. I'm like, yeah, well, you know what, you need to be appreciative of that, because your ex-husband didn't get the benefit or gift of being this old. He'd been gone for 6 or 7 years. And she's like, yeah, I know. I said, no, it's not. I know. It's understanding and it's being full of gratitude for what we have, not content necessarily, because as soon as we're content, we stop pushing.
Yeah.
So we want to have gratitude, but if I'm in that space, to your question, if people are in that space, guys are in that space, understand, reach out to somebody and understand, no matter how bad you think you have it, you could have it worse. And there's bits and pieces of tools that we teach ahead of time where we get people to write out what are the things you've achieved in your life, like right back to high school, right back to what are the big things you think you've achieved in your life, and you write them all down. And then when you get into those dark spaces, oh, I'm not enough and I haven't done anything really, and you pull it out and go, okay, well, wait, I did these things, right? Something that's worked really good for some of my clients was setting up when they're in a really high vibration,
Mm.
setting up a Spotify playlist of music that you really enjoy, that holds your vibration up. And then when you get into like 2 or 3 hours of it, and then when you get into these dark spaces, you force yourself to push play on your Spotify list, because that music will lift you out of that dark place. It's again, some of those things have to be done ahead of time, so that when we get into the space, if we get into that kind of a space, we have the tools around us to be able to function and get through them without leaving the planet, because that causes as much, well, it's not, I heard it said that it's not, it doesn't end the pain, it just transfers it to somebody else. It's taking, so if I had done that, if I'd have been successful with that, I'd have taken the pain I was feeling, and handed it to my wife and my kids, and gone, here, you deal with it, I can't deal with it. Well, that's not fair either. So, and that causes a whole whack of other issues for them. So,
Okay.
right. The short answer is reach out.
Wow. I loved that part that you said around like using a safe word, so that
Mm,
someone that you don't have to go into detail in terms of what's going on.
right.
Just, just say 911, or someone can just make up their own safe word to
Right.
be able to connect with someone. Oh, that was amazing. Oh, this has been so, we could be here all day. But anyway, on to our fun question.
Okay.
I'm gonna close with a fun question.
Okay.
And that I want to ask you, what is the one thing that you think about yourself and you just want to laugh?
Mm. Well, at the moment, I guess it's the look. Well, I put an orange one in. Um, yeah, what I look at and laugh. I don't know if you saw any of the pictures from the weekend on CLA.
I
I
did.
wear, did you? I
With the
wear
shot.
with the shorts. Yeah, I wear shorts with my jacket. My wife's like, "You really gonna wear a jacket with shorts?" I'm like, "Yep." Okay. So yeah, sandals and shorts with my jacket, and I find it funny because I've done that for a long time. Shorts and a jacket. Um, but the kids were watching. My sons are now teenagers, so they're starting to watch videos and stuff from the 80s that we think is great, and they're like, this is brutal, but really old, old stuff. And they were watching, and I don't know where they got that. They got an AC/DC, Hell's Bells is this, well, it's one of the albums, but I bring it up because they're watching them play in this one song, and one of the guys in the band has dress shoes and socks with shorts, and a dress shirt with a vest and a jacket with a weird little hat. And they're like, Dad, look, you're just following after this guy. It's not weird. Look, other people do the same thing. Shorts and a jacket. I guess it's okay. But yeah,
Life is
you
meant,
can't take yourself so seriously, right?
exactly. Life is meant to be fun. So,
Absolutely.
just tell people, like, if someone wants to reach you, because I know you mentioned about reaching, 10 million men. So,
Mhm.
if there's someone out there who wants to reach you, how can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Easiest way is, well, you can find me on every Friday at noon on Inspired Choices Network on the Long Bearded Guy. You can come there. That's one of the emails, the long bearded guy at gmail.com, or Jewel, JEWIL .coaching at gmail.com. I'm on all the social media platforms, and I was lucky enough to get the long bearded guy on every social media platform there is. So I've got presence on everything but Pinterest, I think. I've got a social media. You can get me there. So anywhere that works. Happy to connect with whomever wants to reach out. And if people are wanting to help, right? I've had people say, well, can I help you with your mission, absolutely they can. However they want to, connecting me to other people, other movers and shaker type people, or other men that have groups, or I don't know anybody, but I can give you financial, great. That helps too. Whatever works, we'll take help however we can get it, because the message has to get out quicker. Every time I hear, more people and more people and more people that are really badly struggling or have left the planet, it reinforces it for me. A couple months ago, there was a 9-year-old, not that far from here. It hits home, and I'm like, you know what? I have to find a way to do this quicker. I have to find a way to one of my most earnest prayers that Papa will speed up the process so that we can make an impact in a positive way, as quick as we can. So.
Oh, that's amazing, and we are definitely going to help you get that message out there, because just like today, I opened up my Facebook and I saw there was a mother who lost her son to suicide, and he was quite young. I think he was even in secondary school, and this is a problem that we need to work together to get the message out there, because
Agreed.
there is hope, and I think for us, especially working in marginalized communities, not just in the UK, but in Africa, where there's poverty, and poverty is real. It's like being able to show, I think what's important for us, especially at Africa Healing Foundation, is like we are showing that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, people are all going through the same thing.
Absolutely.
Suicide is real, and suicide ideation can happen to anyone.
True.
And I just love everything that you said. You've been so amazing, and I just want to thank you for just sharing your stories and just being so open about it. And we've loved having you. Oh, I could talk to you all day, God. But
that's my honor.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us for the 30 men, 30 days. And, I pray, and I know that this video will go out to so many men. And, even if it's one person who's heard your voice and, decided that, there's another way, we've done our job.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Eve. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's been an honor.
Honor's mine. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.